much, sir. And first of all, I'd be grateful to the entire LexDita organization for inviting me for this wonderful conference. And it's a very interesting topic also, which is suggested, which I personally found interesting, which is IP enforcement against digital piracy, and especially in the context of gaming. So why this is interesting is that this is very relevant to a lot of people in today's time, and a lot of young people also, and even others. And back when I was growing up, piracy was mostly in the context of film, CDs, and cassettes, right? So for music, also for video games. And I grew up in another country, interestingly, in Southeast Asia. I grew up in Thailand, where piracy and counterfeiting is rampant. And otherwise, although this is a very beautiful country, but they have a big piracy problem because it's very much acceptable there. So, we used to go down to a store to buy like game CDs, and you could buy 10 pirated game CDs at the cost of like one original CD. And these games worked perfectly well. In fact, they would even give away like 30 free CDs with the gaming console, which are all pirated CDs. Same kind of thing, similar thing in a different business model was being offered here in Delhi. And Delhi is where I live and practice now in IP and commercial laws. But it was very easy to get pirated movies even in Delhi from certain notorious markets. Now, in today's time, piracy is no longer restricted to CDs or cassettes, right? In today's time, with the growth of the internet and online gaming, it's spreading like a tsunami, right? And piracy is everywhere now across the internet. So the question is, how does piracy even happen in today's world, right? In today's world, piracy is something which is a hindrance to a 240 billion US dollar industry of online gaming, right? Online gaming is 240 billion US dollars across the world, and piracy is a huge hindrance to this. So, number one, online piracy happens through illegal websites, right? And since the 2000s itself, early 2000s, and even today in the 2020s, torrenting, torrents continue to be one of the main methods through which piracy is carried out, right? Number two, a lot of pirated copies are sold through Play Store apps, which people can access through their mobile phone devices. Number three is your peer-to-peer networks, which make proliferation and accessibility of pirated games even easier. So peer-to-peer networks are also a part of torrents, but I just wanted to mention it separately. And for other digital content, there's a lot of streaming apps, which operate unchecked and provide pirated content. So of course, films, videos, music videos. So now that we know how piracy happens in gaming and in the online world, how does one combat it? What can content creators and gaming companies do to protect their IP? So first of all, let us understand that IP in digital content and games is protected mainly through copyright. Even software in India is protected by copyright. So how is this copyright enforced? Is registration of copyright mandatory? Not really. It is not compulsory to register a copyright. But I would still advise you practically when you actually go to court and try to enforce your copyright, if you have your copyright registered, it will be a huge advantage because you have all this evidence, all this track record there in the government record, which you can claim and say that, see, here's the date of my registration, here's the date of my first usage. I have a copyright on this online content, right? Now, when there's any kind of IP violation, the first thing that any IP lawyer would tell you is send a cease and desist notice. In most cases, in many cases, not most, many cases, I would tell you this. Send a cease and desist notice, which is a legal notice to prevent the other side from continue to using that pirated software or pirated game or online content, right? But I would say in the context of online gaming, maybe I would tell you to not take this step. Rather, I would tell you to straight away file a lawsuit before an IP division. Now we have an IP division in the Delhi High Court, we have an IP division in the Calcutta High Court, and we have an IP division in Chennai, Madras High Court. So which, if your case is falling within these three jurisdictions, then the best thing you can do is you can file suit, IP suit, copyright infringement suit. And what you can claim is an injunction, an interim injunction. Now let me tell you what is an interim injunction. Interim injunction is a temporary stay order which a court grants you to prevent the infringer from continue to using your IP till the time that the case is going on, right? So what does this does is that it stops the ongoing loss. Say, for example, you are the original proprietor of a certain online game or online content, and there is a pirated version out there. So every day that that pirated version is out there, there is an ongoing loss. There is an ongoing monetary loss and a loss to your reputation being caused by that low quality pirated copy being sold out there, which is much cheaper or for free. So now, to stop this immediately, of course, a case would go on for years and years. It would drag on. You know how lawsuits are in India and around the world, in fact. But what an injunction does is you get a temporary stay order, which stops the infringer from using that pirated version till the time that this case is pending in the court, right? So you get that immediate relief. And if you win the case, then you get a final relief, a final injunction, right? Now, in copyright cases specifically, which is the kind of IPR which is involved in online games, digital content, it is actually advisable to ask the court for a specific kind of injunction, which is called a dynamic injunction. And this is the kind of injunction which directs the website owner to take down not only infringing links currently, but even in the future, if similar infringing links are uploaded by some pirate, then they have to immediately take down those links. So this saves a lot of time and it saves a lot of money for a brand owner, as it does not have to file new applications each time an infringing link reappears. And I would be happy to tell you that there are a lot of judgments before the IP division of the Delhi High Court, before the Bombay High Court, and possibly other high courts also, where dynamic injunctions have been issued by the courts, right, to take down repeated links of pirated content. So now that's the legal route to enforcing IP in games and in the online world. Of course, it's very important to have a proper terms and conditions, exclusive licensing agreements, privacy policies, and all of these things in place before you go for any legal action. Because these kind of things help safeguard your IP in the first place. And it helps make out your case even stronger against any infringer. And you should know that many of the big gaming companies, international companies or website owners have even automated DMCA notices, especially those that are US-based companies. They have DMCA notices which go out to infringers and even the users of online content. So say, for example, you download a pirated game or movie, DMCA might send you a notice also, right? And in fact, that brings me to a more interesting point. If you are somebody who has only used pirated content, whether deliberately or by accident, and does not sell this content, then also beware. There are some IP owners, like some big companies, which will actually try to use their IP rights to extort money from users like you. They'll send you legal notices asking you to cough up a huge amount to purchase a license for the software or the app that you used a pirated version of. And in such a case, you will actually have to seek legal help. In fact, very recently, we helped such a company, a company which had accidentally downloaded or software, and they got a legal notice to buy a license for 10 lakhs. We helped them close that case in a mediation before the Delhi High Court in just 2 lakhs, because we were able to point out that there is no obligation for them to actually buy that license. So we had to negotiate with the other party before the mediation center, but we got them a much better deal. And instead of paying up, say, 10 lakhs for a license, they had to pay only 2 lakhs and got away. So, I hope you enjoyed this talk and also got to learn something about digital piracy and IP enforcement. And of course, I'm also constantly learning. We're all learning in this profession. And have a great evening. Have a great weekend ahead. So thank you once again, LexDita. That's all.